Shalom and welcome back to the Rashi Nash. I'm Pastor Matt.
And I'm Kara.
This week our Torah portion is called Vayishla'h. And this is that famous passage in the Torah where Jacob wrestles with someone. But what's interesting is Rashi in our commentary here points out a small detail about this idea of he was alone. Why was he alone? Why did he go back to the place where he had been? So, as always, we are using this Torah discussion commentary, the JPS Rashi Torah discussion commentary, and we're on page 25, and we're looking at this particular section that is entitled Sweat Equity. And what we love about going through this particular commentary is it gives us discussion questions, and so we're going to look at two of those in this video. So, it says here, and I'm already chuckling a little bit because of a particular place that we went to in the Keys. I don't think you went, but me and our brother-in-law went to this place that reminds me of a dollar bill. Have you ever walked into a store or restaurant and seen a dollar bill prominently displayed on the wall behind the counter? The reason I was laughing is this place, it's covered in dollar bills, the ceiling, the walls, everything. But anyway, have you ever seen a prominent dollar bill displayed on the wall behind the counter? Such a bill represents the first dollar the business ever earned, and thus has great symbolic significance to the owner, even if its monetary value is trivial. In a similar vein, Rashi's commentary on the Parsha alludes to objects that might appear trivial and yet have great symbolic value for Jacob. So let's explore this a little bit. It says there in chapter 32 of Genesis, verse 25, Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. Jacob had just brought his family and possessions across the river on their way to the land of Israel. Rashi explains why Jacob did not remain with them, but rather returned to the place he had left. On the verse, the passage of the verse, Jacob was left alone, Rashi comments, he had forgotten some small jars, and he returned for them. Jacob had amassed great wealth during his 20-year sojourn working for his father-in-law, Laban. So the monetary value of the jars he left behind was not significant to him. Rather, their value derived from the fact that they were the result of his labors, and he was scrupulously honest in all his dealings with Laban. The sages of the Talmud comment on this episode, to the righteous, their money is dearer to them than their bodies, because it represents the value they place on being honest in business. This comes from the Babylonian Talmud, Talmud Bavli, Chulin 91a. Many of the objects of minimal monetary worth are nevertheless cherished by their owners because of the values or exertion they represent. Similarly, people sometimes treasure trinkets that remind them of people or experiences that they have loved. Not only can I identify with this, but I also think this is a different way of looking at money than I've ever thought of. I've never thought of valuing money or putting a value on money because it represents being honest in business. I never thought about it that way. In fact, I think we're taught that we shouldn't value money. But without money, we can't pay for the things that we need to. We can't provide for our families. There is something like this in our recording studio, and it is a check that was written to me when I played drums on the project of a very well-known American drummer, a very famous man who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so it means a lot to me to have this copy of a check that he wrote to me. The check isn't for very much money, but it was symbolic of I felt like got to a certain level, got to a certain league in my professional musical career. And also it was a drummer that I loved growing up. My father and I used to listen to this band together in the car. And so it also was special because it had his signature on it, because it's a check. So here's where our questions for discussion come in. If you had to leave your home suddenly without the ability to return, and you could only bring along what you could carry, what would you take? Now, let me give us some rules. Let me preface this with some rules. I'm not going to answer, and so I don't think you should answer in a selfless way, like of course, we would want to rescue the photographs of our wedding and stuff like this or whatever. But is there a thing, or is that your most treasured thing?
I mean, for me, that's probably what I would grab, just
Good,
because.
because that's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, no, you weren't. Oh. To me, I would grab my phone and my computer, because those I could access every single account and, things that, we would have to deal with. But photo albums would be the thing I would grab, because the pictures from when we were married and our honeymoon and like when our kids were little, before we all had digital cameras, I don't have a way to get those back. Those would be gone forever. Whereas anything more current, obviously I could reprint. And anything in the home, I mean, there's a lot of sentimentality, but almost all of it could be physically replaced, as far as, a picture frame's a picture frame and a vase is a vase. You know what I mean? Like, even though there's emotional attachment to that particular vase, but technically I could get another vase. But pictures I would never have again, and that would be difficult to leave behind.
Yes. So I think I'm thinking along the same lines as far as devices. Obviously our computers, our phones, things like that have a lot of our lives on them, and so I would think about that. But I'm thinking of books as well. I'm thinking of some particular books that would be special to us. There's a particular journal that I used to write in when we first were dating that was very special, like the beginning of our relationship, or, I had written you a book while we were engaged. That's very special and very, very precious to me. Even though these things don't have a lot of monetary value, I mean, the real world value of the photos of our family and our children to anyone else aren't very valuable. The books that I would grab or things like that wouldn't be of much monetary value to anyone else, but for us, they mean a lot. It's really quite interesting. There are lots of ways that we could answer this. I thought about the Bible that I was presented when I was ordained, or something like that. It's difficult to put to only pick one thing.
Yeah, and that kind of bleeds into the second question, because obviously we can only carry so much if we had to leave our house. But I'm sure we both have a lot of objects of little monetary value that we cherish more because of what it represents.
Right.
And I can think right now that I have two different little Post-it notes in different spots that my daughters, each of them wrote me a little Post-it note when they were younger. Well, actually one was more recent and one was when they were younger. And it just said something really simple and little, but in their childish handwriting. I mean, it's literally a Post-it note. You know what I mean? It literally has no monetary value, but I've kept it just because it said something, "I love you, mommy," or something. I don't know, something silly and simple. But when I look at that, I'm just reminded of, her and my love for her and our relationship that we've had all these years and stuff like that. So I can definitely think of a couple Post-it notes that definitely would fit that criteria. What about you?
I was thinking of some things that we have in a particular cabinet, like something that symbolized something that we did, but then also would give me a memory of our entire family. Like, we have a little model of the garden tomb that we got in Israel. And not only was it special because it represents the first time that you and I went to Israel together. I think that was in 2014. That's been 10 years ago. So but there have been many special dinners, especially on Friday nights, when that was part of like our table decoration for a Shabbat dinner, where, the kids are sitting around the table and that's there on the table. So I feel like it has a lot of memories for me, but it's not something that's very expensive. I mean,
$29.99.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, it's a touristy thing that we bought, but it's special to us because it represents a memory. Or, maybe I could choose one of the crosses or one of the little communion cups that we also got in Israel, something like that it's not worth a lot, as far as if you had to, God forbid, if you had to sell it. I was thinking of, with these questions, people that I've known that have passed away and they had debts and they had to have an estate sale, and people have to sell their items to try to maybe pay some bills or something. And that always felt kind of strange to me, that people coming into your home a lot of times and buying things that have no real sentimental value to the buyer, but they meant a lot to the people who passed away.
That makes me think of the cup that's by our sink. We have I think it's a cup, not a vase. Yeah, it's a set of cups that used to be your granny's.
Yes, the
and
yellow
she used
glass.
to have it next to her sink when she lived in her apartment for years and years and years. And I used to, when she got older, me and my company would come in and clean her house for her. And I would always see that, and it would be full of, she had it filled with straws, I think, towards the end of her her days. And so when she passed and we were, filling out some of her items, we got a couple different things like a mirror and a lamp, but both of you and I took a cup, and I have mine and then you had yours. And so for a minute we weren't really using them much. I think I used it as a vase one time, but right now we have it next to our sink again, and it's holding a few things next to our sink. And again, it's worth a couple dollars probably.
Right.
But it's sentimentality of your granny. It's sweet. And I would hate to, if it ever broke, which it may one day, but hopefully it won't.
Yeah, we'll try to keep good protection on it. But yeah, it just reminds me of being even a little boy in her house. And it's interesting, the things that mean something to us. Jacob went back apparently to grab some small jars. We're not even told in the commentary what the jars contained. It doesn't seem to matter, because that's not the reason that they were valuable to him. They were valuable to him because of the sentimentality of them, because of possibly the nostalgia behind them, or just the personal memories.
And it makes me think too, because it was this, Rashi was talking about how it's more, or this commentary, I should say, is relating it more to a memory of hard work, or value as far as doing something in business or something. And that did make me think of also with my cleaning business. It used to be where we had a lot of employees, and it was a lot bigger of a production. And when we scaled back, there were so many small things that we had branded with our logo that we didn't need anymore, because it was just the two of us and not a whole big company. But because I was so proud of the work and stuff that we'd put in for those many years, it was hard to get rid of those, because it was a lot of sweat equity. You know what I mean? It was years of hard work and putting in a lot of mental and physical energy into it. And then when that shifted and God changed the path for the business or whatever, it was bittersweet to see those things. And so, we held on to everything for a while. I still have a handful of things that I haven't been able to let go of yet, just because I'm proud that represents, that hard work and those dollars that we put into that, I
don't know that you ever have to let go of some of it.
Yeah, for sure. But
it always means something to me when we have staff meetings. Your business partner, Christy, is our church secretary. And so the three of us have a staff meeting every week, and in the office where Kara and Christy have their desks, there's still some idle items from the cleaning company. A little animated portrait of them. It's not really of you, but it represents you and Christy, and the cabinet that's there, and the coffee maker, and the microwave, or whatever. It's almost like going back to your office when you had an office. But now that stuff sits at the church, and I don't think that stuff ever has to go away. And I don't think there's anything unhealthy about holding on to things like that.
You're proud of that. You know what I mean? That was an adventure that you went on that you could be proud of. Yeah.
Yes. And, you can, if you have this commentary, and I just spoke with a gentleman today who is ordering this commentary for his family, because he loves these videos every week and really thinks that this will benefit his family. So a shout out to you, brother, for, I won't mention you by name, but just to say, I know who you are. Thank you for watching, and thank you for getting this particular commentary. Question number 3, you guys can go over on your own. It's about, how you are honest and scrupulous in business. And sometimes I think you have to even maybe make sacrifices, or maybe make less money if you're honest, but that's what we need to do. So this, I think, is this particular episode here in this Torah portion has made me think differently about why does Jacob go back? And it's made me think differently about money. And I think sometimes we get the idea, if we're believers, that if we're making money or if we have a business or something, that there's something maybe not right about that.
Yeah, remember the Bible says the love of money is or can lead to evil and all kinds of evil, but you can still love or you can be proud of how you earned that money, not necessarily the money itself.
Right.
So again, the item itself is not necessarily important, but how you attained it, whether it's through a gift and a memory or hard work, it's worthy.
Or even how you spent the money that you made from honest ways, how you invest it, or the things that you buy. I think we can be very proud of those things. Great lesson this week. Yeah. This is wonderful. Thank you once again for joining us. And just to let you know, we've mentioned it before, but begin to pray for us, as in the middle of February, we will be traveling both to Australia and Korea. Neither of us have been to either country, so it'll be a new experience for both of us. Obviously, it's a tremendously long trip on airplanes and things like that. So begin to pray for our travel, for our safety, for the provision, for the funds to go on these missions trips. We just had a meeting earlier with the leadership down in Australia. Shout out to the Matazulskis down there, and we're so proud of the work that they are doing for the Messianic community on the Gold Coast of Australia. And then, of course, we send our love to Michelle Kim and all of the people that are involved up in Korea as well. And it's going to be wonderful to be with them in their physical presence. So begin to pray for us, for our safety and provision and protection as we go on these trips. Many, many thanks to all of you, and thank you for joining us each and every week. May God's richest blessings be applied to you and your family. Shalom.